Hello, and welcome to Live Parkinson's, Live an Exceptional Life. I'm your host, Chris Custenbotter, and I've been living an exceptional life with Parkinson's for the past 15 years. The mission of this podcast is to help as many people as possible living with Parkinson's to lead a great quality of life. Today's topic is Parkinson's and HIIT. Is high-intensity exercise safe and effective for Parkinson's? Imagine an exercise that can not only manage your Parkinson's symptoms, but potentially slow its progression. Sounds almost too good to be true, right? Today we're diving into the high-intensity interval training, or HIIT, for Parkinson's disease. Is this intense approach safe? More importantly, could it be the game changer that you've been looking for? As we unpack the science and practical realities of HIIT. I like to exercise, and I'm always looking for new exercises that can help me on my Parkinson's journey. So, as I was doing some research, I kept reading about intensity interval training. It almost seemed to be a frequently asked question in some of the chats. Was training for football way back, since it was in its benefits and risks for people with Parkinson's. After all, I don't want to be sharing information if it wasn't an option. So in this episode, I want to share what I've learned about high-intensity interval training so that you can ask your healthcare professional if it's appropriate for you. Now let's give you a roadmap of what we'll be covering in this episode. We'll start out with defining what high-intensity aerobic exercise is for Parkinson's and the concept of forced exercise. Then it's time to talk about the research. What does the science say? We'll talk about its effects on neuroprotection and symptom management and compare its results to moderate exercise. Then we'll transition into some practical considerations. Is it right for you? Then talk about how to get started in maintaining intensity for this type of workout, if it's appropriate for you. Now in this segment, we'll discuss choosing your activity, the structure of the workouts, the role of a coach and trainer, and accountability. And then I'll give you some tips for staying consistent. Then we'll wrap it up in a nice package and arm you with the information you need to review with your doctor to make sure this program is right for you. So, if you want to get a better understanding of high-intensity interval training, then join me on this journey of exploration. Now, before we get too deep into this topic, I just have a disclaimer that the information being provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice or exercise advice. Please consult your neurologist and primary care physician to determine if this type of exercise is appropriate for you. All right, you might have heard terms like forced exercise or pushing past your comfort zone in relation to Parkinson's. But what exactly does high intensity mean in this particular context? But more importantly, is high intensity interval training truly beneficial, and is it right for you? So let's start by clarifying what we mean by high intensity in the context of Parkinson's. No, it's not about being an Olympic athlete, but about reaching a certain physiological threshold. In essence, high-intensity interval training, also known as HIIT, or simply vigorous cardio, involve periods of intense physical activity interspersed with short recovery periods. So for individuals with Parkinson's, this means elevating your heart rate to a significant level than typical moderate exercise. So you're generally aiming for 70 to 85% of your maximum heart rate, where talking becomes difficult, but it's still possible. Well, that really sounds great, Chris, but how do we figure out what 70 to 85% of my maximum heart rate is? Well, I came across a common formula that is often used, and what they do is they take 220 minus your age. So, for example, in my case, my maximum heart rate figure is 220 minus 61, which is my age, which brings me to 159, and that's 159 beats per minute. Then to calculate 70% of that, we multiply 0.7 times the 159, and that's going to give me 111. And then to calculate the 85%, I would take that 159 beats per minute times 0.85, and that gives me 135. So my target heart rate range would be 111 to 135 beats per minute during moderate to vigorous exercise. So this range is often called the target heart rate zone, helping ensure you're exercising an intensity that is effective but safe. Now, it's important to understand that high intensity is relative to individuals and their current fitness level and their Parkinson's symptoms. You want to keep that in mind as well. Now, what's high intensity for one person might be different for someone else. The key is the effort and the physiological response, not necessarily based on specific speeds or how much weight you're using. It's important that you get approval from your doctor before starting any new exercise program, though. Now, let's take a look at some examples of high intensity aerobic exercises for Parkinson's when done at the right intensity. We'll start off with brisk walking or power walking. And what you do there is you're pushing the pace of your walk to the point where your breathing becomes hard and you're starting to sweat. And then maybe you can even try throwing in some inclines. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you get your heart rate up for a period of a minute, and then you can bring it back down for 20 seconds and then bring it up for a minute. Those will be examples of interval training. So you're bringing your heart rate up and then you're bringing it back down. Another would be cycling. Stationary bikes are often preferred for safety, especially if you have balance concerns. And this can be done with either a high resistance or a fast cadence. So what you might want to do is you might do a 20-second sprint and then a 10-second rest, a 20-second sprint, a 10-second rest, and maybe you do 6 reps of those. That would be an example of high-intensity training. And then tandem cycling has also been studied as a forced type of exercise where a stronger rider helps the person with PD maintain a higher pace than they normally would cycle. And then this is the basis for the Pedaling for Parkinson's program through the Davis Phinney Foundation. Another would be treadmill walking or running, adjusting speed and incline to reach your target heart rate. Now, before I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I used to run on the treadmill 3 times a week. And one of the days I would do intervals where I would run for 30 seconds at a constant speed and then 30 seconds at a higher speed, maybe half a mile to 2 miles an hour faster than I normally could. And I would keep alternating back and forth. Now, could I do this now? No, because the treadmill would probably shoot me across the room. But I do increase and decrease my speed when I'm walking. So I'll walk fast and then slow my pace a bit, and then walk fast and then bring it back to my normal pace. Now, another example is elliptical training. And that's a low impact option that can provide a full body workout at a high intensity. And then we have vigorous dancing. Certain types of dance can involve sustained periods of high energy movements. Now, you may be saying, okay, Chris, are you going to provide some examples? Oh, all right, here we go. Here's some examples of vigorous dance that would fit the bill. These would include salsa and mamba, which are both fast-paced with your feet, so you got a lot of fast-paced footwork with continuous motion. Another would be Irish dance steps. They use lightning-fast leg movements with minimal upper body movement. Jazz and contemporary, where you have sharp, either dynamic leaps and turns, which I don't know that most of us with Parkinson's are going to be able to do. But then you have swing and Lindy hop. I know what swing is, but I really didn't know what Lindy hop was. And then finally, Zumba and aerobic dance, which is designed for sustaining cardio intensity. Now, all these dances require strength, stamina, and precision to maintain their high energy movements. Now, boxing, non-contact, of course. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like getting punched in the face. So non-contact is the way to go. And there's programs like Rocksteady Boxing, which can incorporate high-intensity intervals. And then finally, rowing. If you've ever done a rowing machine, it can provide a full body aerobic workout because you're using your arms, your legs, your back, and it's a great way to do interval training. All right, now that we've looked at some of the exercises that are high intensity, let's answer the question, why someone might consider trying high-intensity aerobic exercises for Parkinson's. Well, there's a growing body of research that suggests that high-intensity aerobic exercise may offer unique and significant benefits for people with Parkinson's. going beyond what normal moderate exercise alone can provide. So here's some reasons why someone might consider it. Now, again, I want to emphasize you should review any new exercise plans with your doctor to ensure that it's appropriate for your specific needs. Now, the first reason people might consider it is for the potential for neuroprotection and disease modification. And this is probably the most compelling reason. Emerging research suggests that high-intensity exercise may have a neuroprotective effect, potentially, and that's the key word, slowing the degeneration of dopamine-producing neurons in the brain. Now, an article entitled High-Intensity Exercise and Its Protective Mechanisms on the Brain by Judd Eason that was published at helpforpd.org. And the author references a Yale study that included 10 people with Parkinson's. Each person received their Parkinson's diagnosis less than 4 years prior to the study. The group completed a 6-month, high-intensity exercise training program. The participants had an MRI and a PET scan at baseline and at the conclusion of the study. The researchers reported that after 6 months of exercise, the neurons had grown to be healthier and produce stronger dopamine signals. According to the article, the brain imaging showed a significant increase in signals within the substantia nigra, which is the area of the brain that produces dopamine. The article quotes 2 researchers. Dr. Evan Morris shared that this is the first time imaging has been used to confirm the biology of the brain in those suffering with PD is changed by intense exercise. Dr. Sultinez, MD, the lead investigator, stated, "The medications that we have available are only for symptomatic treatment. They do not change the course of the disease. But exercise seems to go one step beyond and protects the brain at the neuronal level." The article also references 2 additional studies that showed that engaging in high-intensity exercise 3 times a week for 6 months correlated with less severe motor symptoms. Moderate to low-intensity exercise has not been shown to have the same effects on our brain. Now, another reason people consider high-intensity interval training is enhanced functional abilities. By improving core motor symptoms, high-intensity exercise can translate to better functional independence in daily activities, making our daily tasks like walking, dressing, and reaching easier. Another reason is improved non-motor symptoms. High-intensity exercise has been linked to improvements in non-motor symptoms such as fatigue, mood, and that's reducing anxiety and depression, and even cognitive function, involving our memory and thinking. Now, there's also cardiovascular benefits. Like all aerobic exercise, high-intensity training significantly boosts cardiovascular fitness, which is beneficial for our overall health and can help us manage other issues often seen with PD. And then we have neuroplasticity and brain health. The intense challenge posed by these workouts can stimulate neuroplasticity. It's the brain's ability to reorganize and form new neural connections. And it's particularly helpful when you're learning a new skill or hobby. So this can help the brain compensate for changes caused by PD. And as a final consideration, some people see increased motivation and adherence. So for people that like a challenge and see tangible results, the perceived benefits of high-intensity training can be a strong motivator, helping them stick with their exercise program. All right, now before we go diving feet first into high-intensity aerobic training, there are some important considerations that need to be understood before starting this type of exercise program. While the potential benefits are exciting, I do want to emphasize that high-intensity exercise for Parkinson's should be approached with caution and professional guidance. Now, it's not suitable for everyone, especially those with advanced PD, significant balance issues, or if you have underlying cardiovascular conditions. So before trying any high-intensity program, it's absolutely essential to consult your neurologist and your primary care physician for medical clearance. That way, you can undergo an assessment by a physical therapist or an exercise physiologist specializing in Parkinson's to create a safe and personalized plan. As always, you want to start gradually and then you want to progress slowly, so build into it. All right, now let's switch gears and talk about the research behind high-intensity aerobic interval training. So, what does the science say? Interestingly, the research on high intensity aerobic interval training for people with PD is an exciting and rapidly evolving field of study. While historically exercise might have been viewed as less impactful, there's a significant body of evidence that's emerged, which suggests that high intensity exercise offers distinct and potentially superior benefits compared to moderate or low intensity activity. So let's look at what some of the science has to say. Well, actually, it doesn't talk, but can you believe I actually had to read the science and study this myself. So let's start with neuroprotection and slowing disease progression. Now, one of the most compelling parts of high intensity exercise and Parkinson's is its potential for neuroprotection. Now, what do I mean by that? That it might actually protect brain cells and slow disease progression rather than just managing our symptoms. So let's look at what some of the studies are evaluating in the area of neuroprotection. And let's lead it off with brain-derived neurotropic factor, which is BDNF. Now, multiple studies, including both systematic reviews and meta-analysis, which compare multiple studies, indicate that exercise, and particularly high-intensity exercise, can increase levels of the brain-derived neurotropic factor in the body. Now, BDNF is a crucial protein that supports the survival of existing neurons and helps promote the growth of new neurons and new synapses. So, in Parkinson's, where dopamine-producing neurons are degenerating, increasing the BDNF is hypothesized or believed to offer protective effects. Now, research suggests that exercise-induced increases in circulating BDNF may serve as a therapeutic benefit in Parkinson's, and that comes from that Yale study. Now, next up is dopamine receptor sensitivity and production. Some research using imaging techniques like PET scans have shown that high-intensity aerobic exercise can lead to an increase in dopamine release in certain regions of the brain and may improve the sensitivity of dopamine receptors. Now, that's critical for Parkinson's because we know it's related to the loss of dopamine-producing neurons. Now, the Yale pilot study, for instance, indicated that high-intensity exercise might preserve and even make healthier dopamine-producing neurons, leading to stronger dopamine signals. Now, let's look at research on symptom management, and that includes both motor and non-motor benefits. Now, beyond potential neuroprotection, high-intensity aerobic exercise has demonstrated some significant benefits in managing both motor and non-motor symptoms. In terms of motor symptoms, research consistently highlights improvements in key motor symptoms. First is gait. Research has shown increased gait speed, improved stride length, and reduced double limb support time have been observed. And then balance, which is important for all of us because I think a lot of us have problems with balance. Now, in terms of balance, improved postural stability and better scores on balance scales, which are crucial for fall prevention. Then we have bradykinesia, or slowness of movement. Exercise has shown improvements in the speed and fluidity of movements. And then rigidity. Some studies noted a reduction in Parkinson's hypertonia and muscle stiffness. All right, Chris, so what is Parkinsonian hypertonia? Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't familiar with that term either. So I did a little research, and it refers to muscle rigidity or hypertonicity, which is a common feature of Parkinson's. And then in terms of overall motor function, significant improvements in overall disease severity as measured by scales like the Unified Parkinson's Disease Rating Scale, or the UPDRS, Part 3 motor score that your neurologist or movement disorder specialist may use during your examinations. Now let's take a look at some non-motor symptom benefits. These are the ones that go beyond our physical movement and our motor symptoms. And we'll start it off with the dreaded fatigue. Participants in HIIT often report a decrease in perceived fatigue. In terms of mood, studies have shown positive effects on mood, potentially reducing symptoms of depression and anxiety, both of which are common in people with Parkinson's. And cognition. Improvements in cognitive function, including attention, executive function, Now, these are those skills that help us plan, organize, and complete tasks. And then working memory and cognitive flexibility have been observed in some studies, particularly those involving HIIT. All right, this sounds wonderful, but it's also nice to know where these particular benefits come from. So let's take a look at some of the studies and break them down into simple summaries. We don't need to be PhD researchers here. Now, I like to look at things in simple and straightforward terms. So let's look at a few examples. Now, the first one I'm familiar with because it relates to cycling. Now, I'm a certified pedaling for Parkinson's instructor through the Davis Phinney Foundation, and I lead a weekly pedaling for Parkinson's class with a great group of people with Parkinson's. And as part of that training certification, we had to be familiar with these studies. And the first one is forced, not voluntary exercise improves motor function in Parkinson's disease patients. That was conducted at the Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Alberts. And it compared two groups. 10 patients with mild to moderate Parkinson's were randomly assigned to complete 8 weeks of either forced exercise, where you're pushing yourself past what you typically do, or voluntary exercise. So what does that mean? The forced exercise group, with the assistance of a trainer, pedaled at a rate of 30% greater than their preferred voluntary rate. So that's what they typically rode at. And the voluntary group pedaled at their preferred rate. Now, the aerobic intensity was identical for both groups, 60 to 80% of their individual training heart rate. Now, the results showed the aerobic fitness improved in both groups, but the motor scores in the forced exercise group improved by 35%, while the voluntary group did not show any improvement. So, being forced to exercise at a higher intensity than usual, they were able to see benefits in their motor symptoms. Now, the next study was the SPARX, SPARX trial, which is the study in Parkinson's disease of exercise. Now, this was a landmark phase 2 randomized clinical trial. Now, the study was a randomized controlled trial of high-intensity treadmill exercise in Parkinson's disease that was published in the Journal of Neurology in 2017. Now, the focus of this study was to directly compare high-intensity treadmill exercise, which was 80 to 85% of maximum heart rate, to moderate intensity, or 60 to 65% of maximum heart rate, and the usual care in early stage PD. Now, the key motor findings demonstrated that high-intensity exercise was safe and feasible and significantly improved the worsening of motor symptoms, as measured by the Unified Parkinson Scale, over 6 months compared to the control group. The high-intensity group showed essentially no worsening, while the control group did. Now, the moderate intensity group also showed less worsening than the control, but not as much as the high-intensity group. Now, another study, feasibility and effect of high-intensity training on the progression of motor symptoms in adult individuals with Parkinson's disease, a systematic review and meta-analysis that was published in the Journal of Neurological Sciences in 2023, and its focus was looking specifically at high-intensity training, and that concluded that high-intensity exercise performed in both continuous and interval modes, when compared with control groups, may provide motor function benefits for individuals with Parkinson's. It also found benefits for maximum oxygen consumption and overall quality of life. And the final study, looking at non-motor symptoms, was physical exercise for treating non-motor symptoms assessed by general Parkinson's disease scales, systemic review and meta-analysis of clinical trials that was published in BMS Neurology in 2023. And it looked specifically at the effects of exercise on non-motor symptoms. While it found trends for general exercise, it noted that aerobic exercise showed near large effects compared with conventional exercise for non-motor symptoms. So that begs the question, how does high-intensity aerobic exercise compare to moderate exercise? Well, while moderate exercise is undoubtedly beneficial to all of us, and it's one of the cornerstones of Parkinson's management, some research suggests that high-intensity exercise may offer additional or unique advantages, particularly concerning its potential neuroprotective effects. Now, the idea is that the greater physiological challenge of high-intensity training might trigger more robust adaptive responses in the brain and the body. This could lead to a more significant upregulation of what they call neurotropic factors like the BDNF that we talked about a little bit earlier. Now, some studies directly comparing HIIT to moderate intensity continuous training have showed that while both can improve cardiovascular fitness and motor symptoms, HIIT might lead to larger changes in certain parameters like maximum oxygen consumption or have specific advantages for muscular endurance or certain gait metrics. Now, it's important to note that some animal studies suggest a saturation point, meaning that where increasing the intensity beyond a certain moderate level might not yield significantly more neuroprotection, implying that consistent, vigorous exercise may be key rather than extreme intensity. Now, it's important to note that the research is ongoing and not all questions are definitely answered. The, quote, optimal dose or frequency, duration, and specific intensity of high-intensity exercise for different stages of PD is still being refined. Now, once large-scale, long-term randomized control trials are needed to confirm the neuroprotective effects and understand the mechanisms involved. Also, variability among people with Parkinson's means that what works best for one person might differ from somebody else. But despite these ongoing questions, the trend is promising. Cumulative evidence strongly suggests that feasibility and significant benefits of high-intensity interval training as a powerful tool in the management of Parkinson's. So this can offer hope for both symptom management and potentially slowing disease progression. So the research sounds promising, but it's not a one-size-fits-all recommendation. High-intensity exercise by its nature requires careful consideration. Is it right for you? Well, let's discuss some practical considerations to make sure it's right for you. Number one, and I talked about this before, consult your doctor and neurologist. And this is paramount. So before you start any new exercise program, especially high intensity, discuss it with your neurologist and your primary care physician. They know your history, the medications, and any underlying conditions that you have. Number two is assessment by a physical therapist. A physical therapist specializing in Parkinson's can conduct a thorough assessment of your current fitness level, your balance, and your gait, and any other potential limitations that you have. And they can help determine if you're a good candidate for high-intensity interval training and then how to get started safely. Third is gradual progression. Now, you don't jump into high-intensity training. It's a gradual ramp-up. So discuss principles of progressive overload, starting with moderate intensity and then slowly increasing the duration and frequency of intensity. And then number four is monitoring and listening to your body. Emphasize the importance of monitoring your heart rate, using a heart monitor, or use a perceived exertion scale where you understand the signs of overexertion. So if you're breathing too hard, you're sweating, you're getting dizzy, so you need to understand all those. And then distinguishing between challenge and then pain and fatigue. And then five, you want to consider safety considerations. So you want to discuss any potential risk like falls or cardiovascular strain if you're not medically cleared. Overtraining and injury are other key considerations. So make sure you use proper form in a safe environment. And that's why you need to use either a physical therapist or trained certified professional that's used to working with people with Parkinson's. Now, number six is what if it's not right for you? Now, remember that for some people, high intensity may not be appropriate due to advanced PD or if you have significant balance issues, heart conditions, or other health concerns. Remember, any exercise is better than no exercise, and moderate exercise still offers significant benefits. So before trying any high-intensity exercise, you want to take all these considerations into account with your doctor to make sure that it's right for you. All right, if after consulting your healthcare team and they say that high-intensity aerobic exercise is appropriate for you, how do you actually get started? And then how do you maintain that intensity? So the first step is to find your baseline. And you want to work with a certified personal trainer or physical therapist to help you determine your target heart rate zones. And then the next step is going to be crucial, and that's selecting activities that you enjoy. Because let's be honest, no one's going to have a consistent exercise program if you don't like what you're doing. So ask yourself, what activities do I enjoy? Is it cycling? And that could be a stationary bike for safety if you have balance issues. Do you like doing brisk walking on a treadmill, doing the elliptical, swimming? And again, safe, you need to be cleared for that. Dancing and boxing. Now, you know the saying, variety is the spice of life. The same holds true here, that you can select as many different activities as you like. So it's great to add variety. And then next, you want to structure your workouts. Ask a trainer or physical therapist for help in setting up an exercise program. Now, let me give you a couple examples of what it might look like. So you might do 2 to 3 minutes of high intensity, and that could be walking, cycling, or elliptical, followed by 1 to 2 minutes of recovery, or they call those sustained periods. And then a person might do these 3 to 5 sessions per week, aiming for 20 to 30 minutes at a heart rate target where you have a little bit higher intensity, the 70 to 85%. Now, remember, that's just an example. So find a coach or trainer, and the reason this is important is to ensure that you're using proper technique, form, and progression so that you don't injure yourself. And you want to try to find a certified trainer or physical therapist, maybe with some experience in dealing with people with neurological conditions. And then finally, last but not least, is accountability. Accountability is absolutely crucial for consistent adherence to any exercise program, especially high-intensity interval training. Because of its demanding nature and unique challenges faced by individuals with Parkinson's, like fatigue, apathy, and fluctuating symptoms. So here are some tips for building accountability with HIIT in Parkinson's. First is professional guidance and supervision. Now, as I mentioned earlier, work with a Parkinson's specialized either physical therapist or certified trainer with experience in working with Parkinson's patients so that they can help you develop a personalized HIIT program so that you ensure that you're using proper form and that you're adjusting intensity safely based on your daily symptoms. And they're going to help you provide direct accountability. And then knowing you have a defined appointment can also be a strong motivator if you're going to be seeing these people on a regular basis. Number 2 is find an exercise buddy. And this is one of the most effective strategies. Committing to exercise with a friend, family member, or a fellow PD warrior is going to create mutual accountability. You're less likely to skip a session if you know someone's waiting or counting on you. I play a weekly pickleball with my Parkinson's friends. It's great exercise, and it's fun, but it makes me accountable to show up as well. Number 3, join a class. PD-specific exercise classes like rock steady boxing, power moves, or specific dance classes often incorporate high-intensity elements. Now, the camaraderie shared and the shared experience and scheduled nature of these classes help provide accountability. And it also promotes a sense of community and belonging as well, which is great. Number 4, set SMART goals. Now, what are SMART goals? Well, S is specific. For example, I'll do HIIT training for 20 minutes 3 times a week. M is measurable. I will increase my time in the 80 to 85% maximum heart rate zone by working with a coach. A is achievable. Make sure the goal is realistic, given your current fitness level and symptoms. R is relevant. Connect it to why you're doing HIIT in the first place. Do you want to, for instance, that maybe you want to improve your gait speed? And then T is time bound. I will consistently complete my HIIT sessions for the next 4 weeks. So using SMART goals is going to help as well. And then number 5 is to keep an exercise log or journal. By manually tracking your workouts, and that can include things like your date, duration of your workout, the type of exercise, perceived exertion, symptoms, and your mood for that day, can help you see progress over time. Number 6 is schedule exercise like an important appointment. Don't leave exercise to chance. You want to block out time in your calendar. And that leads us to our last tip, number 7, which is find your best time. For many people with Parkinson's, our symptoms are going to fluctuate throughout the day. So schedule HIIT for when you feel your best. Now, that might be, for me, it would be the morning. All right, now some final thoughts and takeaways. So to recap, high-intensity aerobic exercise holds significant promise for people with Parkinson's, potentially influencing disease progression and improving symptoms. But remember, it's not a decision to be taken lightly. So some key takeaways, again, consult your healthcare team first to get a professional assessment. Next, you want to progress gradually, listen to your body, and understand that safety is of utmost importance. Now, remember, the best exercise is the one that you're going to do consistently. If high-intensity exercise isn't for you, there are many other highly beneficial forms of exercise for Parkinson's. Your journey with Parkinson's is unique. Empower yourselves with information, but you should always prioritize safety and professional guidance when designing an exercise program. Now, I hope this episode has provided valuable insights into high-intensity aerobic exercise for Parkinson's. If you found this helpful, please share it with others who might benefit. And then you can find more resources and articles on my website, liveparkinsons.com. And you can also subscribe to the free monthly newsletter. Now, if you feel that this podcast provides a benefit and you want to support the podcast and the website so that I can reach more people, please visit my Ko-fi page at kofi.com/liveparkinsons and buy me a cup of coffee. Thank you so much for listening. I hope the information I'm providing is helping you in your daily lives and giving you hope and determination to live your best life with Parkinson's. Now remember, stay strong, stay healthy, and live your best life with Parkinson's. We're here to support you every step of the way. And thanks again for listening, and I hope to see you soon.